A man wishes for something impossible, that a painting could age instead of him. He gets exactly what he wished for. It destroys him anyway. Oscar Wilde wrote this in 1890. 110 years later, psychiatrists borrowed his character's name for a real diagnosis. Dorian Gray is a strikingly beautiful young man. When the painter Basil Hallward finishes Dorian's portrait, Dorian is struck by how it captures a beauty he knows he'll eventually lose. Standing beside the hedonist Lord Henry Wotton, who tells him youth and beauty are the only things worth having, Dorian makes an offhand wish that the portrait would age and change instead of him, that he could stay exactly as he is in the painting forever. The wish comes true, and almost immediately, Dorian gets a chance to test what that means. He falls for a young actress, Sybil Vane, and proposes to her, then coldly discards her the moment her acting, the thing he claims to have loved, has one bad night. Sybil kills herself, and that night, for the first time, Dorian notices something has changed in the locked-away portrait, a new, cruel twist at the corner of its mouth that wasn't there before. His own face, in the mirror, is untouched. From there, Dorian spends decades young and flawless, while the hidden portrait absorbs every year, every cruelty, every sin he commits, growing older, crueler, and more grotesque with each one, while his own face never changes at all. Somewhere in the middle of those decades, Lord Henry gives him a book, an unnamed, decadent French novel with no real plot, just one character living entirely for sensation. Dorian becomes obsessed with it for years, treating it less like fiction and more like an instruction manual, at one point ordering multiple copies bound in different colors, as if changing the cover could change what the book was doing to him. It's less a story corrupting a man than a man using a story as permission for who he already wanted to become. In 2000, psychiatrists Burkhard Brosig and Jörg Kupfer studied patients who structure their entire lives around one goal: never physically show what they've lived through. They named the resulting condition, seriously, Dorian Gray Syndrome, a real published diagnosis combining a fear of visible aging, narcissistic focus on appearance, and an arrested emotional maturity underneath it. These patients chase cosmetic procedures and anti-aging routines not out of simple vanity, but as a defense against confronting time, mortality, and the self underneath the surface. Clinicians have documented patients who spend far beyond their means on repeated procedures and who report genuine depressive episodes when the aging process starts to show through anyway. Wilde described the mechanism 110 years before psychiatry gave it a name. The fixation was never really about beauty. It's about refusing to let your appearance testify to who you actually are. Sybil Vane's death is the clearest textual proof of what happens next. Because Dorian's face never shows what he's done, he stops feeling the ordinary breaks most people feel. He's disturbed for about a day. Then Lord Henry talks him into treating her death as an aesthetic experience rather than a tragedy he caused. And he does. Each act after that gets easier, not harder, because nothing on the outside ever forces him to sit with the one before it. Psychologists call this moral disengagement, a mechanism first described by Albert Bandura. When consequences are hidden, deferred, minimized, or displaced onto something else, people give themselves permission to do worse. Not because they've become different people, but because the thing that would normally stop them, visible and felt consequence, has been switched off. It's the same mechanism researchers point to in studies on anonymity, where people treat others worse the less identifiable and traceable their actions feel. Dorian doesn't have to feel his conscience because his portrait is doing it for him. Literally, on canvas, in a locked attic. It gets worse from there. Years later, Basil Hallward, the man who painted the portrait in the first place, corners Dorian and asks to see it, certain the rumors about Dorian's secret life must be exaggerated. Dorian shows him. Basil sees exactly what his own painting has become and asks Dorian to pray for forgiveness. Dorian's response isn't guilt, it's murder. He stabs Basil to death on the spot, then coldly blackmails a former friend, the chemist Alan Campbell, into destroying the body so no evidence remains. The pattern doesn't just let old guilt sit unprocessed, it escalates. Each hidden consequence teaches Dorian that consequences can always be hidden, which is exactly the logic that turns a discarded actress into a locked door, and eventually a locked door into a murdered friend. The secret doesn't just enable more harm, carrying it exacts a cost of its own, whether or not it's ever exposed. Sybil Vane's brother James spends nearly 2 decades hunting the man who destroyed his sister, swearing revenge the night she dies. For years, Dorian's unnaturally preserved youth is his best defense. James can't square the boyish face in front of him with a man who'd have to be middle-aged by now. Only by chance, cornered in an opium den years later, does James almost close the distance. And only by accident, shot during a hunting party at Dorian's own estate before he can act, does he never get the chance to expose him. Dorian survives entirely by luck, not innocence. Columbia psychologist Michael Slepian's research on secrecy found something Dorian's decades of dread confirm. The psychological burden of keeping a significant secret is persistent and ongoing, independent of whether anyone ever actually finds out. Hiding the truth isn't a one-time transaction that clears the ledger. It's a standing cost, paid continuously, for as long as the secret lasts. By the novel's end, the distance between Dorian's flawless public face and the corrupted portrait becomes unbearable, not because anyone else can see it, but because he can. Psychologists describe this kind of split as the tension between a person's persona, the curated self shown to the world, and what's underneath it. Research on people who maintain a heavily managed public image consistently finds it's psychologically costly to sustain. The wider that gap grows, the worse people report feeling, even when the performance is working perfectly from the outside. Sociologist Irving Goffman described this exact split decades before Wilde's fictional version played out to its extreme. People constantly perform a curated front-stage self for others, while a private backstage self exists only when no one's watching. Most people's front-stage and backstage selves stay close enough together that the performance doesn't cost much to maintain. Dorian's gap is the most extreme version imaginable. A front stage that never ages a day, and a backstage locked in an attic, literally rotting. Goffman's framework predicts exactly what happens when that gap gets too wide to sustain. The performance collapses, and it collapses all at once, not gradually. Dorian eventually can't stand to look at what he actually is. In the novel's final scene, he stabs the portrait, trying to destroy the evidence once and for all. His servants find him moments later, an unrecognizable, withered old corpse on the floor, wearing Dorian's rings, while on the wall above him, the portrait has reverted to the beautiful young man Basil first painted. Closing the gap, in the end, meant becoming, physically, exactly what he'd spent his whole life refusing to look like. Dorian Gray isn't a story warning people to age gracefully. It's a story about building a wall between how you appear and who you are, and forcing something else to carry the weight of the difference. Wilde understood something psychiatry wouldn't formally describe for over a century. That vanity, taken far enough, was never about beauty at all. It's about hiding from the parts of yourself that time and consequence would otherwise force you to face. If you want to read it yourself, the link's in the description. And if you want more of this, the psychology hiding inside the stories we think we already know, subscribe. This is The Villain's Mind.